Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point. The network is the American Family Radio Talk Network, AFR Talk. A couple of, read the first part of a column by a good friend of mine, Mike McManus. He's been a frequent guest on this program. Got a ministry called Marriage Savers. And he started his column today with an interesting paragraph or two talking about Bethesda, Maryland. Now, Bethesda, Maryland is one of the wealthiest communities in the country, and that would mean it's one of the wealthiest communities in the world. And here's how he begins his column. Bethesda, Maryland area residents are among the best educated, highest paid, healthiest people in the nation. So why are people complaining that they're not happy? Asks a provocative article in Bethesda magazine. More than half of Bethesda's residents have a graduate or professional degree. Rates of smoking, obesity, heart disease, and diabetes are among the lowest in the country, according to an article by Stacy Colina. Yet, listen to this, half of Bethesda residents are mildly to severely unhappy. This is according to Robert Hedaya, a Georgetown professor. Why? He answers his own question. There's a sense that it's never really enough. So this is really important. You know, I think it's inevitable for us to think, I mean, we just can't help it. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. You know, I got a friend that sometimes he talks about the fact there's this magazine out there, Better Homes and Gardens. And he says, Better Homes and Gardens, better than what? Better than yours. That's kind of the whole idea, to kind of show what an inferior home that you've got and how shabby your furniture is and all that kind of stuff. So it's almost impossible not to think that the grass is greener on the other side. And if we just had more stuff, we would be happy. But we see here in one of the wealthiest, most highly educated, they're physically fit, they're financially prosperous, and yet they are mildly to severely unhappy. Half of them mildly to severely unhappy. And that's because, as the song says, they are looking for satisfaction, looking for contentment in all the wrong places. Let's see, where do we want to go from here? Let's grab soundbite number one. I talked about this the other day, this Diwali ritual that Michelle Obama invited into the White House, and she spoke at this thing. And here is what she had to say. Clip one.
As you may know, we've celebrated this holiday here at the White House every year since Barack took office. And there's a reason why we've done that. And I mentioned it to the kids. When we say that we want to make the White House the people's house, we mean all people. We mean that we want to honor and embrace all of the many cultures and faith traditions that make us who we are as Americans. And Diwali is very much one of those traditions. As you know, this holiday is celebrated by members of some of the world's oldest religions, not just here in America, but across the globe. Diwali is a time for celebration. So we learn today, children, all smiles, smiles. As Barack and I learned during our visit to India, it's a time to come together with friends and family, often with dancing and good food. But Diwali is also a time for contemplation and reflection. It's a time for us to think about our obligations to our fellow human beings, particularly those who are less fortunate than we are. And as we light the diya, the lamp, we recommit ourselves to the triumph of light over darkness, of good over evil.
So that is Michelle Obama talking about the Diwali celebration. And it's interesting to me because what she says here in the, and again, I went over what this ritual involves, and it's not an innocent thing. We talked about this the other day. I don't want to repeat that, but I want to remind you of what the ceremony consists of that she invited into the White House. Hindus celebrate this Diwali. It's in honor of Lakshmi, who is the goddess of wealth and prosperity. It's the goddess. It's a false god. It is an idol that is worshipped by those that follow Hinduism. This is a goddess of wealth and prosperity. So here is the god that Hindus look to for prosperity and for wealth. Now what they do is they place a small earthenware oil lamps called diyas in their homes to help the goddess find her way. I mean, that just cracks me up. I mean, what kind of a god do you worship if you got to put out a flashlight or the goddess can't find her way to your house? What is up with that? But and then the Hindus leave their windows and the doors of their houses open so that this goddess of Lakshmi can come in. And we talked about the fact that, look, what Paul says, look, there are some dark spirits that are behind these idols. If you open the doors of your house and the windows of your home and you do a ritual in honor of these false gods, then you are issuing an invitation to these dark spirits to come and make themselves at home in your house. Now, the thing that's striking to me is what Michelle Obama said in this statement is that we want to honor and embrace all of the many cultures and faith traditions that make us who we are as Americans, and Diwali is very much one of those traditions. So on the one hand, Michelle is saying to the nation, we, and this is a quote, we want to honor and embrace all of the faith traditions. And Diwali is one of them. So we're going to embrace Diwali. We're going to embrace Hinduism. We're going to engage in this ritual in the people's house in honor of this God, this idol God, and we're going to invite whatever's behind that God to come into this residence because we're going to embrace all traditions. Yet at the same time that Michelle Obama is embracing this Hindu goddess and whatever dark spirits are behind her, at the very same time, her husband is relentlessly and obstinately refusing the right of Christians to exercise their faith tradition in the marketplace because he is ordering us and ordering Christian-run businesses to pay for abortifacients at their own expense, to pay for what we believe to be the killing of innocent babies with our own money. So it's a good question. Okay, if you're going to embrace all faith traditions, how about embracing Christianity while you're at it? We see you embracing Hinduism. We see you embracing Islam. You've got Ramadan festivals. You issue glowing tributes to Islam. You can't say enough kind things about the religion of Islam. How about embracing Christianity for a change? And those that want to live and run their businesses according to Christian principles. You know, the Roman Catholic Church has been particularly in the firing line here. And the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Washington accused the administration, and I think they're right about this. These are not my words. These are the words of the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C., accusing Obama and his administration of engaging, quote, in a conscious political strategy to marginalize and delegitimize Catholic beliefs. So on the one hand, we're going to embrace Diwali. On the other hand, we are going to marginalize, demonize, neutralize people of Christian faith. Now, I want to talk just for a minute about, in the last few minutes of this segment, 888-589-8840, number to call if you want to join the program and enter the conversation. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. We've sent an action alert out today on INDA. This is the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. It would provide special protections in employment law. This is in the workplace. It's the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. It would prohibit an employer from making personnel decisions or personnel policy decisions based on sexual orientation. You could not take sexual orientation or gender identity into account in any way, shape, or form, or you could get sued within an inch of your life. Now, the Senate is going to vote on this tonight. There has not been a single. Now, this is dangerous to the First Amendment. I went over this yesterday. This would basically shred the First Amendment when it came to Christian employers, because if they took a biblical view of sexual conduct into account in their policies, in their hiring plans, in their firing decisions. In other words, if you got a Christian bookstore owner and a guy who thinks he's trapped inside a woman's body comes into work one day wearing a dress and high heels and earrings and lipstick, he can't fire him. He's got to put him behind the counter to represent and be the face of his Christian bookstore because he can't discriminate on the basis of gender identity. There are no privacy protections. If you've got a transgendered individual, a man thinks he's trapped in a woman's body, a man who thinks he's trapped in a woman's body, so therefore he wants to use the facilities, the private facilities, whether it's a bathroom or a locker room or a shower room in a school or whatever, and he wants to use the women's facilities, you have to let him in there. You can't discriminate against him. You can't fire him. You can't tell him to stay out of there, because if this law goes into effect, you will get sued if you don't compromise not only your own religious convictions, your Christian convictions, but also the privacy rights of your female employees. You will be hauled into court and sued. It would be the end of any Christian-run, values-driven business in America. This is a huge, huge deal. And I got a call this morning from a reporter with BuzzFeed, which is a political website in D.C., because I had tweeted out the fact that I'm distressed. There has not been a single Republican senator, not one. And you and I both know that there are values-driven senators. There are many senators who claim that they share our values when it comes to human sexuality, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to religious liberty. They say that they believe in our values. They share our values. They're there to work for our values, but not one senator. I'm not going to mention any names, but I'm sure the names of senators come to your mind that are values-driven senators. Not one of them, not a single solitary one, has objected to ENDA. There have been 3 days of debate. Today's going to make 4. And so far, maybe things will be different today when this thing is debated on the floor and voted on. Maybe some of them will make their voices heard. But to this point, not one of them has spoken out against this First Amendment destroying piece of legislation. Now, what's sad is every one of these senators that's not speaking up against this thing has constituents who are going to be harmed. Their businesses are going to be harmed by this bill, and they're silent. That is inexcusable. Focal Point, AFR Talk, 888-589-8840.